The arena was silent. Not the normal kind of silence. Not the silence that comes before a fight. Not the silence that comes after a knockout. This was different. 20,000 people sat frozen in their seats, staring at the center of the ring as if reality itself had stopped working. Some looked confused. Some looked terrified. Others simply couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. A sports commentator slowly removed his headset. A cameraman forgot he was filming. One little boy wearing a champion's shirt began crying. Because the man he had idolized his entire life was lying flat on his back beneath the arena lights. And the giant screen above the ring displayed a number nobody thought they would ever see. 0024. 24 seconds. That was how long it had taken. 5 years of dominance. Destroyed in 24 seconds. 5 years of victories. Gone in 24 seconds. 5 years of arrogance. Buried in 24 seconds. And standing quietly above the fallen champion was a man who didn't celebrate. Didn't smile. Didn't raise his hands. Didn't even look surprised. Because unlike everyone else in the building, he already knew what was going to happen. His name was Chuck Norris. But to understand why 20,000 people would remember this night for the rest of their lives, we must go back 6 hours. Back to the moment when the most feared fighter in the country still believed he was invincible. The city had never seen anything like it. By noon, traffic around the arena had already stopped moving. Hotels were fully booked. Restaurants overflowed with customers. Street vendors sold thousands of posters carrying the face of one man. A face everyone recognized. A face many feared. A face that had become a symbol of dominance. Damian Wolf, the undefeated king, the destroyer, the nightmare of every fighter brave enough to enter a ring with him. For 5 straight years, Damian had ruled the fighting world. Not once, not twice, dozens of times. Every challenger who stepped forward eventually suffered the same fate. Defeat. Some lost by decision. Most lost by knockout. A few never fought again. His highlight videos had accumulated millions of views. Sports analysts called him a once-in-a-generation athlete. Fans called him unstoppable. Promoters called him priceless. But behind closed doors, many fighters called him something else. A bully. Because Damian didn't just want to win. He wanted people to feel small. The moment an opponent showed weakness, Damian attacked their confidence. The moment a fighter made a mistake, Damian mocked them. The moment victory became inevitable, he turned competition into humiliation. And because nobody could beat him, nobody could stop him, success fed his ego. Victory fed his pride. And pride slowly transformed him into a man who believed he was untouchable. By evening, the arena looked less like a sports venue and more like the center of the world. Searchlights cut through the dark sky. Helicopters circled overhead. Television crews broadcast live from every entrance. Thousands of fans flooded through security checkpoints. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Every seat was occupied. Every staircase was crowded. Every conversation revolved around the same question. How long would Damian's next victim survive? Not whether Damian would win. That question had disappeared years ago. The only mystery left was how quickly. Backstage, Damian sat alone in a private locker room. Luxury sponsors had filled the room with gifts. Energy drinks, customized equipment, expensive watches. Letters from fans. A giant television displayed live coverage of the event. The commentators were discussing him again, predicting another easy victory. Damien smirked. He had heard it all before. His trainer entered the room. Feeling ready. Damien laughed. Ready for what? The trainer smiled. Another fight. Damien shook his head. This isn't a fight. His eyes moved toward the television. It's a demonstration. Across the building, another fighter prepared in complete silence. No luxury locker room. No expensive gifts. No media attention. Just determination. His name was Marcus Reed. Unlike Damien, Marcus had earned everything through sacrifice. Years of training. Years of setbacks. Years of grinding through small tournaments while dreaming of a moment like this. Tonight was his opportunity. His chance to prove he belonged among the best. He knew the odds. He knew the predictions. He knew nearly every person in the building expected him to lose. But Marcus didn't care. Because real fighters don't enter arenas searching for guarantees. They enter searching for possibilities. As fight time approached, excitement exploded throughout the building. Fans stood from their seats. Phones illuminated the darkness. The giant screens suddenly went black. For 3 seconds, the entire arena disappeared into darkness. Then came the explosion. Fire erupted from the stage. Music thundered through the arena walls. The crowd lost its mind. Damien Wolf emerged through a tunnel of smoke. The roar that followed sounded like a jet engine. Thousands screamed his name. Children climbed onto chairs. Fans waved signs. Commentators shouted over one another. Damien slowly walked toward the ring. Not because he needed time. Because he enjoyed the attention. Every second of it. Every scream. Every cheer. Every camera. He wasn't entering the arena. He was entering his kingdom. And in his mind, everyone present belonged there to watch him. Marcus entered next. The applause was respectful, but smaller, much smaller. The difference was impossible to ignore. One fighter was treated like royalty. The other was treated like a sacrifice. Marcus heard it, saw it, felt it, but never reacted. His focus never left the ring. Because unlike many before him, Marcus wasn't afraid. The bell rang, and the arena erupted. For the first minute, something unexpected happened. Marcus fought brilliantly. Sharp footwork, disciplined defense, precise counters. The crowd noticed. The commentators noticed. Even Damien noticed. For the first time all night, the champion stopped smiling. Because Marcus wasn't collapsing. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't breaking. He was fighting. Actually fighting. Then Damien's expression changed. A slow smile appeared. The same smile that had haunted countless opponents. The smile that appeared right before everything went wrong. The champion attacked. Suddenly, the pace doubled. Then tripled. Marcus defended as long as he could. But Damien was relentless. Like a storm gathering strength. Like a predator sensing blood in the water. Every exchange became more dangerous. Every second became more intense. The crowd stood on its feet. The noise became deafening. Marcus continued fighting with unbelievable courage. But courage alone wasn't enough. Not against Damian Wolf. Then came the moment everyone expected. A devastating combination landed. Marcus staggered. Another strike followed. Then another. The challenger collapsed. The referee rushed forward. The arena exploded. Fans jumped from their seats. Commentators shouted. The count began. Marcus tried to stand. His body refused. The fight was over. Damian had won again. The crowd celebrated. But what happened next changed everything. Marcus slowly rose to his feet. Bruised, exhausted, defeated, yet still dignified. The audience applauded him. Many respected his effort. Marcus extended his hand toward Damian. A simple gesture. One fighter honoring another. The entire arena watched. Damian looked at the hand, then laughed. Not a laugh of joy. A laugh of disrespect. The applause stopped. Marcus remained standing. Hand extended. Damian turned away. Then began mocking him, imitating his mistakes, pointing at him, making jokes. The crowd's energy shifted immediately. Boos appeared throughout the arena. People exchanged uncomfortable looks. Even some Damian fans lowered their signs. This wasn't confidence. This wasn't dominance. This was arrogance. And everyone could see it. Except Damian. Moments later, a microphone was placed in his hand. The champion raised his arms. The crowd reacted. Some cheered. Some booed. Damian smiled. I told you exactly what would happen. The arena responded. Then he pointed toward Marcus. This is what happens when people forget their place. A few cheers. Many boos. Damian didn't care. His ego was now fully unleashed. Then he looked directly into a television camera. A camera broadcasting to millions. And he made the biggest mistake of his life. If there's anyone in this building, he paused, smiling, who thinks they're better than me. The crowd waited. Damian spread his arms. Come prove it. Silence. For a second, nothing happened. Then somewhere in the audience, a chair moved. A single spectator stood up. At first, only a few people noticed. Then entire rows turned. Then sections. Then half the arena. A ripple spread through the crowd. Whispers became conversations. Conversations became shock. Shock became disbelief. Because the man rising from his seat wasn't a random spectator. It wasn't another fighter. It wasn't a coach. It wasn't a celebrity. It was a living legend. A man whose reputation had traveled across generations. A man who never needed to tell people who he was. Because everyone already knew. Chuck Norris. And for the first time in 5 years, Damian Wolf felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Uncertainty. The smile disappeared from his face. The arena held its breath. And the night that would change everything was only beginning. The arena had witnessed knockouts. It had witnessed champions rise. It had witnessed legends fall. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared 20,000 people for what was about to happen. The moment Chuck Norris stood up from his seat, the atmosphere changed. It was almost impossible to explain. Nothing physical had happened. No fight had started. No punch had been thrown. Yet somehow the energy inside the building felt different. Heavier, sharper, more dangerous. People who had been talking suddenly stopped. Fans who had been celebrating became quiet. Even the commentators struggled to find words. Because every person in that arena understood one thing. This was no longer about another victory. This was about pride. Damian Wolf stared across the arena. His expression remained confident. But deep inside, something had shifted. For years he had looked at opponents and seen fear. Tonight, for the first time in a very long time, he saw something else. Calmness. Chuck Norris wasn't angry. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He wasn't showing off. He simply stood there, relaxed, almost bored. And somehow that bothered Damian more than any insult ever could. The champion tightened his fists. The crowd waited. Thousands of phones pointed toward the scene. Millions watching from home leaned closer to their screens. Nobody wanted to miss what happened next. Damian grabbed the microphone. "You think you're better than me?" The question echoed through the arena. Chuck Norris slowly walked toward the ring. No dramatic entrance. No music. No celebration. Every step seemed effortless. The crowd followed him with their eyes. The closer he got, the quieter the arena became. Finally, Chuck stopped near the ring. Then he spoke. His voice wasn't loud. Yet somehow everyone heard it. "I think champions should respect people." The words hit harder than a punch. A wave of cheers exploded throughout the arena. Damian's jaw tightened. Chuck continued. "Winning doesn't make you great." The arena became silent again. Character does. For a brief moment, even the commentators stopped talking. Because everyone knew exactly who those words were aimed at. Damian laughed. But the laugh sounded forced. "Then get in here and teach me." The crowd erupted. People jumped from their seats. Security personnel looked at each other. Event organizers rushed around nervously. The main event had already ended. Yet somehow the biggest moment of the night was only beginning. The announcer entered the ring. His voice shook with excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen." The arena exploded before he could continue. The chants began immediately. "Joku, Joku, Joku." The sound echoed through the building like thunder. Damian looked around. For the first time all night, the attention wasn't on him. And he hated it. Minutes later, the officials made a decision. A special exhibition match. 1 round. No excuses. No delays. No backing out. The crowd nearly tore the roof off the building. Commentators called it surreal. Fans called it history. Damian called it easy. Chuck Norris called it nothing at all. Backstage, Damian paced across his locker room. His trainers surrounded him. One of them spoke carefully. "Don't underestimate him." Damian laughed. "He's old." Nobody answered. The room remained silent. Because deep down even Damian's own team wasn't convinced. They had seen Chuck Norris before. Not merely as a celebrity. Not merely as a legend. But as a martial artist. And they knew something Damian had forgotten. Experience never truly disappears. Meanwhile, Chuck sat quietly in a small room. No large team. No cameras. No dramatic speeches. Just silence. One official approached him. Nervous. Chuck smiled. "No." The official laughed. You know everyone thinks you're crazy. Chuck nodded. Maybe. Then he stood up. The conversation ended. That was all. No motivational speech. No boasting. No promises. Just quiet confidence. The arena lights dimmed again. 20,000 spectators rose to their feet. Nobody wanted to sit anymore. The anticipation had become unbearable. The announcer stepped into the center of the ring. Ladies and gentlemen. The roar that followed nearly drowned him out. In the blue corner, cheers erupted. The undefeated champion. Maury cheers. DAMINWOLFE. Fire burst from the stage. Damien entered like a king. He raised both arms. The crowd responded. Yet something felt different now. The cheers were no longer unanimous. Many people wanted to see what happened next. Many wanted to see if arrogance would finally meet consequences. Then came Chuck Norris. No music. No fireworks. No smoke. Nothing. He simply walked toward the ring. And somehow the reaction was even louder. The building shook. People screamed. Phones filled the air. The commentators could barely hear each other. A living legend had entered the arena. Both men stood face to face. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Damien looked like a modern champion. Powerful. Explosive. Confident. Chuck looked calm. Relaxed. Unmoved. The referee explained the rules. Neither fighter responded. Their eyes never left each other. The bell rang, and time seemed to stop. 20,000 people held their breath. Damien immediately moved forward. Vast. Aggressive. Confident. Exactly as expected. He wanted to make a statement. He wanted to embarrass Chuck the way he embarrassed everyone else. The champion threw the first attack. A powerful strike. Fast enough to defeat most fighters. Chuck moved. Barely. The attack missed completely. A murmur spread through the crowd. Damien attacked again. And again. And again. Each strike sliced through empty air. The audience began noticing something strange. Chuck wasn't rushing. He wasn't struggling. He wasn't reacting. He seemed to know exactly where every attack would go before it happened. 10 seconds. The giant screen displayed the timer. Damien increased his speed. Frustration began creeping into his movements. His attacks became more aggressive. Less controlled. The crowd sensed it. Something was wrong. Very wrong. 15 seconds. The champion launched another combination. Chuck stepped aside. Effortlessly. The movement was so smooth, it almost looked unreal. The audience gasped. A former champion sitting ringside stood up. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. 18 seconds. Damien attacked again. His confidence was disappearing. The calm smile that had defined his career was gone. Now there was only urgency. Desperation. The need to prove he was still in control. 21 seconds. The arena had become completely silent. Nobody shouted. Nobody moved. Nobody blinked. 22 seconds. Damien lunged forward. Everything he had. Everything he possessed. One final attack. One final attempt to dominate. 23 seconds. Chuck Norris moved. For the first time. Just once. One precise movement. One perfect counter. No wasted energy. No unnecessary force. Pure timing. Pure technique. Pure mastery. 24 seconds. The arena exploded. Damian Wolf crashed onto the canvas. The impact echoed throughout the building. The champions stared upward. Confused. Shocked. Unable to understand what had happened. The referee stepped forward. The crowd stood frozen. Then the giant screen displayed the number. 0024. The same number. Again. And again. And again. 24 seconds. Nobody spoke. Not immediately. The commentators were speechless. Fans stared at the ring. Security guards looked at each other. Even the referee seemed stunned. Because everyone had witnessed the impossible. The man who had spent 5 years humiliating others had been defeated in 24 seconds. Damian slowly sat up. His eyes found Chuck Norris. The legend wasn't celebrating. Wasn't smiling. Wasn't mocking him. Wasn't pointing. Wasn't laughing. He simply stood there. Respectfully. Calmly. Exactly as a champion should. And somehow that hurt Damian more than the defeat itself. Because for the first time in years, he realized the difference between being feared and being respected. But Damian's lesson was not over. Not even close. Because later that night, away from the cameras, away from the crowd, away from the arena, his anger would make him commit the biggest mistake of his life. The arena was still buzzing long after the fight ended. People crowded the exits, replaying the moment over and over again. Some argued it was the greatest upset they had ever seen. Others insisted they had never witnessed such perfect timing. Videos of the knockout were already spreading across the internet. Commentators were calling it historic. Fans were calling it unbelievable. But while the world celebrated what had happened inside the ring, Damian Wolf sat alone in his locker room. And for the first time in 5 years, he felt lost. The giant television hanging on the wall replayed the fight again. And again. And again. Every replay felt worse than the last. 24 seconds. That number seemed burned into his mind. 24 seconds. 5 years of dominance had created an image of invincibility. 24 seconds had shattered it. Damian clenched his fists. His jaw tightened. His breathing became heavier. The more he watched, the angrier he became. Not at Chuck. At himself. At the crowd. At the cameras. At the embarrassment. At everything. He had spent years building a kingdom. And tonight, the entire world had watched it crack. A knock came from the door. One of his trainers entered carefully. Damian. No answer. The trainer stepped closer. You need to calm down. Damian looked up. His eyes were filled with frustration. He got lucky. The trainer didn't respond. He got lucky, Damian repeated. The silence that followed told him everything. Nobody believed that. Not even his own team. That realization hurt even more. An hour later, the arena had mostly emptied. The media remained busy covering the story. Fans continued celebrating outside. Meanwhile, Chuck Norris quietly exited through a side entrance. No cameras followed him. No reporters surrounded him. He wasn't interested in attention. The fight was over. As far as he was concerned, the night was finished. A few blocks away, he entered a small local restaurant. Simple place. Simple food. Simple atmosphere. Exactly the kind of place he liked. The employees recognized him immediately. They smiled nervously. Chuck smiled back, then sat near a window. For the first time all evening, everything felt peaceful. Back at the arena, Damien's anger had only grown. The more he thought about the loss, the more unbearable it became. His pride refused to accept reality. His ego searched desperately for excuses. Finally, he stood up. Two close friends followed him. Both were fighters. Large, strong, loyal, and just as angry as Damien. One of them shook his head. Forget it. The other agreed. It's over. Damien looked at them. No. His voice was cold. It isn't. 20 minutes later, the three men walked through the city streets. Their destination was clear. Someone had informed them where Chuck Norris had gone. The plan was simple. Intimidate him. Embarrass him. Take back some of the pride Damien believed had been stolen. It sounded good in his head. But it was a terrible idea. The restaurant was quiet. Only a handful of customers remained. Chuck sat calmly, eating his meal. Completely unaware, or perhaps completely unconcerned, about what was approaching. The door suddenly opened. Several customers looked up. The atmosphere immediately changed. Damien entered first. His two friends followed behind him. The employees exchanged nervous glances. Everyone recognized them. Everyone sensed trouble. Chuck looked up briefly, then returned to his food. That calm reaction irritated Damien instantly. He approached the table. The entire restaurant fell silent. You think you're special? Chuck didn't answer. Damien stepped closer. I'm talking to you. Chuck slowly placed his fork down, then looked directly at him. His expression remained calm. What do you want? The simple question somehow made Damien even angrier. One of his friends stepped forward. You embarrassed him. Chuck shook his head. No. The restaurant became even quieter. He embarrassed himself. Those words hit harder than any punch. Damien's face turned red. His pride could no longer tolerate it. Years of arrogance exploded in a single moment. He slammed his hands against the table. Customers jumped. Employees froze. The confrontation had officially begun. What happened next lasted only 56 seconds. Yet people who witnessed it would remember it for years. The first friend charged forward. Powerful, vast, aggressive, a dangerous fighter under normal circumstances. Chuck stood up. One movement. The attack missed. The man stumbled past him. Before he could recover, he found himself on the floor. The entire restaurant gasped. The second friend attacked immediately. Unlike the first, he was more careful, more technical. But the result was exactly the same. Chuck moved, countered, controlled the situation effortlessly. Seconds later, the second fighter was down too. Shock spread across every face in the room. Now only Damien remained. For the first time all night, fear appeared in his eyes. Not because Chuck looked angry. Not because Chuck looked dangerous. Because Chuck looked calm. The same calmness Damien had seen before the arena fight. The same calmness he had ignored. The same calmness that now felt terrifying. Damien attacked anyway. Pride pushed him forward. He threw everything he had. Speed, power, aggression, frustration, desperation. All of it. But nothing worked. Every movement felt one step behind. Every attack failed. Every attempt collapsed. The gap between them suddenly felt enormous. Not a gap in strength. A gap in understanding. A gap in discipline. A gap in character. 56 seconds after entering the restaurant. It was over. The three fighters who had arrived seeking revenge were defeated. Not humiliated. Not mocked. Simply defeated. Silence filled the room. No cheering. No applause. Only reality. Damien sat on the floor, breathing heavily. His two friends slowly recovered nearby. For several moments, nobody spoke. Then Chuck Norris walked toward him. The restaurant watched carefully. Many expected a lecture. Others expected humiliation. After all, Damien had mocked countless opponents. Surely now it was his turn. But Chuck did something unexpected. He offered his hand. The same gesture Marcus Reed had offered earlier that night. The same gesture Damien had refused. Damien stared at the hand. Memories flooded back instantly. Marcus standing in the ring. The crowd watching. His own laughter. His own arrogance. His own mistake. For the first time, he truly understood what he had become. And for the first time, he felt ashamed. Slowly, Damien accepted the hand. Chuck helped him stand. Neither man spoke for several seconds. Finally, Damien broke the silence. I understand now. Chuck waited. Damien looked around the restaurant. Then lowered his head. I spent years trying to make people fear me. Chuck nodded. And Damien exhaled deeply. I forgot how to respect them. The restaurant remained silent. Everyone listened. Every word mattered. Damien looked directly at Chuck Norris. Thank you. Chuck raised an eyebrow. For what? Damien gave a small smile. A genuine smile. Perhaps the first genuine smile he had shown in years. For teaching me a lesson nobody else could. Chuck nodded, then picked up his jacket. As he turned toward the exit, Damien spoke one final time. I promise something. Chuck stopped. Damien straightened his posture. No more arrogance. The room listened. No more disrespect. He glanced toward the floor. No more treating people like they're beneath me. Then he looked directly at Chuck. I'll become a better man. Chuck smiled. A small smile. But a real one. Good. That was all he said. One word. Yet somehow it carried more weight than an entire speech. As Chuck Norris walked out into the night, nobody stopped him. Nobody needed to. The lesson had already been delivered. Not through humiliation. Not through revenge. But through example. Damien watched him disappear into the darkness. And for the first time in years, the former champion wasn't thinking about winning. He was thinking about becoming worthy of respect. Because championships can be lost. Records can be broken. Fame can disappear. But character is what remains when everything else is gone. And on that unforgettable night, a proud champion lost a fight, but found something far more valuable. Humility.